This is our open mic discussion. It's something new that we're trying as part of the forum structure, and the idea is to kind of open the floor to you guys to bring up topics that you want to either ask our keynote speakers, or that you want to put out to the peers that are around the room, basically. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to think about anything that you might want to ask or bring up. I do have a question, and it's something that came up earlier this morning, and that actually, Alberto, you alluded to. It was the chatbot. So in the context of new technologies and how this affects localization and then kind of global content and international user experience, what are people's experiences with chatbots? So I'm talking machine learning, sort of artificial intelligence chatbots in languages other than English. So what are kind of those experiences? Has anybody tried it? Has it worked, not worked? And kind of, either as a user or in particular in your organizations, have you done anything with that? So don't know if any of you, if you want to maybe.
Sure. So it depends on the market as well, but it's chatbots are only as good as the data that informs them, because the chatbot is built on various machine learning systems that might be more or less complex. But in terms of use cases, so in China, for example, it's second nature to use chatbots for services, for companies. So a company that has a presence in WeChat, for instance, which is the platform, it's almost guaranteed that the first contact on WeChat with that company is through a chatbot. And that's not to replace the human agent, but what happens is that the chatbot does what the IVR systems do anyway, which is basically to redirect your request and say what it is about. So if you say, I want to book a trip, or I want to buy a new TV, or I want to check my balance, the chatbot takes that, kind of categorizes your request, and then it gets to a point where it can't do anything further, so it redirects to a live agent. And other chatbots are completely autonomous. But so in certain markets, it's already second nature. I think that one of the key benefits is for nowadays the fintech industry as well, financial. One of the things is, for example, checking on balance or doing small operations with your bank account in your bank app can work, and it's becoming more popular. But the other thing about chatbots, and that's why I was bringing it up, is because chatbots will eventually almost replace apps. Because the way that it's working currently is that the app market has already plateaued, and it's going down in terms of adherence, because the mobile websites are becoming better and better. And if you, instead of having 20 apps, if you can have 3 or 4 critical ones, and then the rest are good websites that you can actually use, you don't need the apps. So people are becoming more aware of that. And definitely chatbots, for instance, if you can talk with a service or a company through WhatsApp instead of having the app, and you can just start writing, I want to see what's up. They know your phone number. You might go through security a little bit, but eventually you will get to do what you want. You don't need the app. So yeah, in a way, assistants and chatbots are definitely one of the new waves that's probably going to grow exponentially in the next 2 or 3 years.
Does anybody have any experience in terms of using? Oh, Yuka, sorry.
Usually we provide the product for retail, which means stores, but obviously it works for hospitality too. So we provide huge implementation for a travel agency as well. Our product is based on digital signage. And actually what I want to talk about is our chatbot, which is implemented, installed in store to replace human assistance. And I do localization for our product, but I'm kind of participating in the product development to think how we have to make it multilingual. Because a city like Barcelona, if you install a chatbot in store, if we have it in Spanish or in Catalan, is it enough? No. Many people coming from China, many people coming from France, many people coming from Germany, and obviously British people, English-speaking people. So in this kind of environment, not talking about online chatbot, but physical chatbot, we really have to think how to make it multilingual and how to detect who is speaking in which languages. It's a real challenge, but this is what I'm doing. So if anybody has any information, please contact me. Thank you very much.
Some of our customers, our localization contacts, are part of the UX organization. Is anyone, I suppose, and it's a question for Alberto, but for anyone in the room, would you see that as a benefit to localization being part of UX being the kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of the sexy side of things? You know, localization has been around for a while. UX is kind of new. It has its own acronym and everything. So would that be a good move for people in the room? Have you seen that, Alberto, that there is a move to do that? Should people want to do that? Should they cozy up to people in UX just to make sure localization gets a look in? Or I don't know what people's thoughts around the room are on that. Yeah.
So I'm Sophia, I work as a localization manager at Deliveroo, and we are completely embedded within the content research and design team. So, and what's now really good is the need for my role, the need for localization manager came from the content team, realized there was a gap. Like they're spending loads of time writing the copy in English, and then it's kind of lost in translation, literally, when it comes to then the localized product. So now being part of that team really helps, because when we do what we call crit, where we look at the design all together every week, I can have an impact and say, that's not going to work, because little things on everyday issues that we are all aware of, but a designer, a researcher might not. So I would say it's definitely super beneficial to be part of it, because we can tackle issues from the very get-go. So I would definitely recommend it.
Good. Anybody else? Any other experiences or any other thoughts? Whether localization should be under user experience or kind of very closely linked? Okay, I do have something else, and I know this could be a very long conversation, but I'll ask everybody for a little bit of feedback. Obviously, as both localization and user experience become more strategic and seek to become more strategic and get a kind of a seat around the table to be part of the strategy and everything else. It's kind of a rhetoric question. Are you asked for or to demonstrate the ROI of what you're doing and what you're attempting to do? And how do you demonstrate that ROI if you are demonstrating it, or how are you measuring that?
Yes, at IHG, people want to see numbers. So basically, I mean, it can be. First of all, I mentioned the reporting function for our translation memory system. So definitely, I can show them, the benefits that we are getting when it comes to the cost efficiencies, but also time efficiencies. But generally, I think it's about also when I can present case studies and also the qualitative type of feedback and endorsement, how we actually helped, different teams based in different regions. If they actually approached us at a very early stage and with challenges we addressed from the very beginning, which, generally resulted in a much, better quality content when it comes to campaigns or transcreation or any other, but definitely they ask about that because it's an investment, yes. So, and it's also like my ambition is to make the team global. Like, I already started putting the business cases to senior people because I told them at the moment we mostly cover EMEA languages, but I would love to have a Chinese linguist, Japanese linguist, Thai, Indonesian. But I think I need to prove my business case here. So then the company might be more willing to actually invest more.
So in research in general, we constantly get questioned what the ROI is, because it is an expensive part of the business as well. It starts with metrics for us because we need to have very clear KPIs anyway for the business. But the thing is, when you're making your efforts more diffuse and you're kind of impacting several projects at once and in different levels, then it's harder to just say it was this set of measures that did this concretely. It's, in a way, it's more linear with content because you have very clear metrics that are content dependent. Whereas our impact, we try to be about the product success, and that means that our KPIs are linked to the product success in a way, and we don't have the benefit of having a clear deliverable that is going to demonstrate that. So for us, for example, we use a lot of qualitative metrics as well, self-reported user satisfaction. We track that longitudinally. We see if it's improving, it's decreasing. It's easier for new markets because your baseline is basically determined very, very, very quickly. And in terms of the ROI, our case is that with what we do, we can inform, for example, testing on an A/B level, for example, much more directly, much more quickly. And so even if we try to keep the trace of where that idea came from. If it came from research, change the button to blue, or to reduce the size of that paragraph in by half, or use bullet points. We track where that idea came from. If it came from research, we see if the A/B test works, and if it does, then we trace that back to the revenue change as well for the business. So we use conversion. So it's kind of messy. There's not a very linear response to it. We try to do the best that we can to track where the influence is coming from, and then we use particularly the user self-reported metrics as an indication that the business is doing well. And if the revenue is going up, then everybody's happy as well, in principle.
Does anybody have any experience or any thoughts or any questions? Sure.
Hi, my name is Lassen Guérouge. I'm looking for the international content strategy for Salesforce. And my question is off topic. This one came to mind as we speak about it and looking at the experience that we have on the table. I wanted to get your views on the following. So looking at the internationalization of the contents, transcreations, localization, all those elements come into play. One of the things I keep hearing from people in the US that want to localize all their content is that, hey, take all our blogs and get it localized. And come back to them and say, you can't localize blogs because blog is personal, there is an opinion, there is a byline. You can't do that, but there is a way where we can send the same message. So am I the only one thinking that, or am I crazy thinking that you can't localize a blog as such unless there is kind of a product definition behind that, and therefore the blog is misused as a vectors of having a product narrative? But yeah, I wanted to have your view. Do you think that we can localize a blog, or are you on opinion that you can simply transcreate or adapt, have the same message, but have someone else being the author locally and saying roughly the same story? Let's say we want to talk about gender equality. Yeah, we can have our French, UK, German version of it, but it will be authored by someone here in the regions. Any thoughts?
Would you mind defining blog?
Okay. And I think this is what there is a big issue, the big challenge about the understanding of what a blog is about. Often a blog is used sometimes for the wrong purpose. We should not forget that a blog is a social media platform initially. It is not the website, and sometimes we use a blog as a website. The blog is not the PR platform, even though often companies use their PR platform there as a blog stories. And there is a lot of ambiguity, and whoever works in content worlds knows that there is always defined content to me. Are you talking about the product brochures? Are you talking about the marketing content? Are you talking about the story about customers and so on? So in my opinion, my understanding on the blog, and that's Tumblr's, that's all those guys who launched those blog platforms initially, was that a blog, it's a bigger Facebook where you have 700 characters when you want to express your opinion on something. So you may have the product marketing team that will come with a product, and that will go on the website, and that will be the narrative there, and that's why it stayed. But then you will have an opinion when you have someone from each country that can talk about their angle of this product and what does it mean for the market. For instance, AI. What does that mean AI in the UK versus what does that mean AI in Germany? GDPR coming to play in Europe. That's not the same story over there in the US. So we have the same product, but we may have different angle on how we want to tackle that. And personally, I want to read a blog, a good blog from a thought leadership, someone who has experience, but therefore you can't localize that unless you said, this guy is somewhere in the US, he's a VP on that, that's what he said, and here is the localized version, that's a transcript of what he said. But out of that, I can't think, and I just want to check with you whether I'm the only one crazy thinking about that, or whether it is something rational to have this mindset.